This episode of the Tony Robbins Podcast is brought to you by Breakthrough, the mobile app with the tools and strategies you need to take your life to the next level. Imagine that Tony Robbins himself was your life coach, and you had direct access to his most powerful ideas and proven tactics whenever you want, wherever you want, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Introducing the Tony Robbins Breakthrough app. Whether you're looking to improve your finances, your career, your health, your relationships, or even just the way you feel every day, the Tony Robbins Breakthrough app is your key to real, lasting change in your life. Breakthrough is a digital library of Tony's best content, a curated collection of some of his most watched short videos like What Makes a Relationship Work and How to Master the Game of Money. And when you're ready for deeper immersion, you can purchase digital copies of Tony's best-selling products, including his #1 personal and professional development program of all time, Ultimate Edge. The Breakthrough app also includes interactive features like a journal to track your progress and the all-new Wheel of Life, a free assessment test that shows you where you are today in each of the 7 areas of your life, so you know with certainty what you need to focus on to achieve an extraordinary quality of life in all areas. Download the free Tony Robbins Breakthrough app today. Get yourself on track to the life you desire and you know you deserve. Now available in the App Store and in Google Play. Hey guys, it's Anna, Editorial Director for Robbins Research International. Welcome back to the Tony Robbins Podcast. We're continuing our Inside Business Mastery series with an exclusive interview between Tony and John Zimmer, co-founder and president of the massively popular ride-sharing service, Lyft. 2017 was a banner year for Lyft. The San Francisco-based company expanded its coverage to 95% of America. And the number of rides per year reached a staggering 375 million, which is really impressive when you consider that the number was just 162 million in 2015, just 2 years ago. Part of that explosive growth can be credited toward gaining more market share from its biggest competitor. Because when customers saw that Lyft had a values-first, passion-over-profit motive, many opted out of the dominant ride-sharing platform to start supporting the company with a social purpose. But for Zimmer, it's not about unseating the competition. It's about becoming a viable alternative to your own car and ultimately reinventing the entire transportation landscape. So in this episode, Tony talks to John about how they're making all of that happen. And John opens up about his roots in the hospitality industry, the big problem with the existing transportation infrastructure, and how he's on a mission to create a better service for everyone.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Thanks for making the time. I know
Thanks.
how crazy busy you are and what you're building. We had a chance to meet just briefly at the Warriors game the other day, which was really nice. Tell us, when people think of ride sharing, they think of 2 companies, obviously. You and a group called Uber. You actually started this before Uber under a different name, didn't you? Tell us a little bit about your journey. How did this begin and were you first?
Yes, so 10 years ago, my co-founder and I started a company called Zimride. My co-founder, Logan, grew up in LA hating traffic, and he took a trip to Zimbabwe. We didn't know each other at the time. He took a trip to Zimbabwe, and he saw people sharing rides out of necessity. That inspired him to start building a website he called Zimride. Again, not knowing me, even though my last name is Zimmer.
Oh, you're kidding. I thought it came from your name.
Yeah.
That's wild.
So my background, I grew up on the East Coast. So I was born in New York, grew up in Connecticut. Nice. And I loved making people happy. So as a young kid, I wanted to be a magician because that's what made people happy. And then my mom would take me to Dunkin' Donuts every week, and it made me happy, so I got a maple frosted donut, so I wanted to be a donut man. And then I realized that my interest for entrepreneurship and making people happy fit well in hospitality. So at the age of 16, I started working in a hotel as a phone operator, and then I went to Cornell Hotel School to study hospitality. And then by my senior year, I took a class in city planning. And I had this amazing professor, and his first lecture was the history of the world in about 40 minutes. And
I want to go to this lecture.
It's phenomenal.
Really?
Yeah. And he basically said we're at a really important turning point in world history where population density is rising rapidly. More and more people are moving to cities. And the infrastructures that we have in our cities were built decades ago. Before there was this many people there. And then he said, if you don't do something about this infrastructure, we're going to have a major economic, environmental, and social problem. And he said, if you don't make my class the most important thing you do this semester, I don't want to teach you. And then he left. And I was pretty inspired. I obviously went back. His 8th lecture was on transportation history in the US. And he talked about the evolution from canals to railroads to highways. And I started thinking, what would be next? And I couldn't figure out what the next physical infrastructure would be because there were so many cars and so many roads and kind of paved over spaces in our country. So then I thought, what if you apply the principles of hospitality to this existing infrastructure? And so you have 250 million cars in the United States, and they're mostly not used. 4% of the time they're used.
96% of the time you said in the film. That's wild.
Yeah, so only 4% occupancy. As a hotel person, I think about occupancy. If you do it on a seats basis, it's 1% of the time the seats are being used.
Wow.
And so you have horrible occupancy, and you have really high costs. The average American household spends $9,000 every year owning and operating a car. The only thing Americans spend more money on is the house itself.
Wow.
And so I said, that's a poorly run transportation hotel, so let's fix it. Let's lower the costs, let's increase the occupancy, and let's create a better service for everyone.
How did you and your partner meet?
We had a mutual friend on Facebook. I was writing a business plan for this idea, a marketing plan and business plan, and I was at Lehman Brothers at the time.
Yes.
And by the way, my best friend's mother, when I was going to leave, said, you shouldn't leave a sure thing like Lehman Brothers to do a silly carpool startup.
Awesome.
So around that time she said that, I was thinking maybe I could do this full time, and I'm on Facebook one night, and Logan posts to a mutual friend's Facebook account, check out this website I'm working on called Zimride. And I reached out to our mutual friend and said, how do you know Logan, and why the hell did he call his company Zimride? And that's how we met 10 years ago. We started working together, and now he was the best man in my wedding. We're neighbors, and we've been working together for 10 years.
Give him a hand to that. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. Tell us, when people see overnight successes, they think of it, right? It's clearly not overnight success ever. What were some of the early challenges? Did it just take off? Clearly it didn't, because Zimride didn't. Why did Zimride not work? And then what was the shift that you made to where you are today?
Yeah, so we spent 5 years, the first 3 of which we didn't take a salary. We were living in an apartment, working out of an apartment, and Zimride wasn't taking off.
Yes.
But we were so passionate.
And what was the difference between the thesis of the Zimride in terms of the conceit of it versus what you do today in Lyft?
So Zimride was for long-distance carpooling. So I'm on college campus in upstate New York, and I want to go to New York City, and I have 3 extra seats in my car, and I can sell them for $20 each.
Got it.
And so it was a infrequent use case compared to Lyft, which is a very frequent use case. You can use it multiple times every day.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference. So it was a lot of trial and failure for those first 5 years, but we never changed the mission. And so the mission today is to improve people's lives with the world's best transportation. We've stayed true to that the entire time. And so it's that persistence of figuring out, okay, so maybe about 5 years ago, we said, what if we were starting over today? What would it look like? And I think that's something helpful to do every few years.
That's great.
Is just